Hello, it's me, it's Seb, and what have we here? It is a giant library book haul, although it's less giant when you take into account the fact that a lot of it, a huge percentage of it, I'm looking at it now, is just one book repeated several times, and that book is none other than Ulysses by James Joyce. This is the one I just got recently. I ordered a bunch of these in from the library because I wanted to see the different types. They've got this is the 1922 text. So as with lots of famous classical books, annoyingly there is not just one standard text. There's other ones, and I wanted to see what's on offer before I take the plunge, because this year I am taking the plunge. I've decided it's gonna happen. I will be reading Ulysses on Bloomsday, which is a special Irish holiday, special day, a cultural day where everybody reads Ulysses, and I will be one of the people doing it and walking around Dublin. And because the book is about just walking around Dublin, and so I feel when I'm living in Dublin, it's the time in my life that I should read this book. And there's that one. There's this one. What's this one? This is the Penguin, right? No, this is Oxford World's Classic, and this is Penguin. Ulysses, with this little round tower, which I think I've been to. There's a round tower that I've been to, which I thought was the place where it began, but there's another round tower that's nearby. But anyway, it's very confusing which round tower is where the story actually begins, but I will find out soon enough. Then there's the vintage Joyce Ulysses. There you go. That's another huge one. This is these ones. Are these penguins? Yeah, Penguin Classics ones. I really like that with the sort of the soft hardback. And it's not very heavy. It's less heavy than the other ones, which is also nice. And then finally, I had to destroy my file here to pick up this huge Cambridge Centenary Ulysses companion. It says 1922 text with essays and notes. This is actually not even the biggest Ulysses that I took out, but I had to return the other one because I could only take it out for a day or something, and that was way bigger. And that was an illustrated one, which was nice. I looked at the illustrations, but I don't need any more Ulysses than I have here. Ulysses is a book which is sort of been like an albatross around my neck, because it's my father has always been trying to push Joyce on me since I was quite small, and I've always been resisting strongly, just because it's one of those books for me Dickens or Jane Austen, where I feel through cultural miasma and stuff, I just know it, and so it's not so exciting for me, or it's not really appealing for me, even though I know I should actually read it at some point. But yeah, it's also, I'm a big fan of Greek myth retellings, and this is, the most famousest Greek myth retelling ever, so I ought to add it to my collection. Why now with this book? I guess last year was the centenary, the 100 years since its publication, and so there was lots of Ulysses stuff around, especially around Bloomsday. And I saw the movie, which was surprisingly really good, given that it was a movie adaptation of a modernist masterpiece. It's sort of how would that work? But I really liked the film, so I thought, if you like the film, you might like the original too. So it's happening. It was brewing ever since last June. And it's the brew is complete. We're going to drink the tea. We are going to read Ulysses. It's decided. Next up, I've really destroyed this pile. It's just surrounded by all these multicolored books, like a little rainbow on my floor here. But I've got the Last Storyteller, which I think is actually called the Last Cuentista, but I think maybe the European publishers chickened out and thought kids won't like foreign words on their covers or something, and so they changed it to Last Storyteller, which is a bummer. But I saw a couple people talking about this recently. It's I think middle grade, or a children's book, and it's about a comet that destroys the Earth, or is going to destroy the Earth. I think it says on the back it destroys the Earth. When Earth is destroyed by a comet is the first thing on the back, so I guess that happens pretty early on. I love a comet destroying Earth story. That's one of my favorite tropes, and this one sounded pretty exciting, so I'm looking forward to that. Here's another double copied one. This is Fathers and Sons by Turgenev, Penguin Pocket Classics. This is super light and nice. And then this is that lovely Rhodes edition, which I just recently became acquainted with through Nostromo, which I got here recently. They look really nice, don't they, together? I gotta take that little tag off, but yeah, I really like these books, although unfortunately, that was loud, sorry. Unfortunately, it doesn't say the translator for this one. Fathers and Sons is about the generational conflict in mid-1800s, is it, Russia, and the between the sort of the progressive liberal fathers and their more nihilistic radical offspring, their sons, right? And so like the generational divide, which feels like it's on kind of universal in one sense, but also feels quite relevant, I think, to modern ones in some ways, which are surprising and fun. Fathers and Sons is a book that I was reading on my computer, an ebook of the translate because it's in the public domain. The translation by, I think her name's Constance Gardner. And my computer, I spilled water on the computer, I destroyed it and lost the ebook, and so I stopped reading this for I think over a year now. So it's kind of like an unfinished tale. It needs to be finished. So one of those two translations, or maybe kind of both side by side, I want to attempt at some point, because it's at the moment it's like, you know, psychological baggage. I need to finish these Father and Sons. They're not very long. This is one that was on the last list, Territory of Light by Tsushima Yuko. I read like half, I think exactly half, or almost exactly half, I forget, of the books that I did in my last library haul. So I think that's actually a pretty good number. And the other ones I have to return. This one was one that I returned and then I took it out again because it's so slim and it's in my library. I see it all the time. The other thing that really has draws me to Territory of Light was last time I had it out, I remember I read the first sentence, because I usually do that when I'm not sure about a book. I do like the first sentence test. And this first sentence is, "The apartment had windows on all sides." That's just a killer first sentence for me. I don't know. I really like it. Like, what a weird apartment, right? To have windows on all sides. And like, it starts to make you think about the space, about what it would like to be there, about like kind of the light and the weather. And I don't know, like it's got so much to think about. And it's such a simple kind of matter of fact sentence. That's for me just great writing. And I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of it, whatever it's about. I saw somewhere at the beginning that, it says, these 12 chapters first appeared as a story series in the literary monthly Gunzo between 1978 and 1979. July it says. Oh, darn, I didn't know when the month was. But yeah, I was thinking, because every chapter is like a month that was serialized when it came out, I could read it in that way, like a chapter a month, and then, you know, return it and take it out. Because I think it was in the last video I sort of talked about it a bit, but I quite like the idea of, you know, extending my reads and serializing them if possible, which is what I'm doing with this one over here, Babel, which came back to me very quickly this time. This is one that I have to give to the library and take back, and give to the library and take back, because I'm a very slow reader. But this came back super fast. I found out the trick is to order in a bunch of Babels at the same time, because they have a bunch of copies out, and so you get one, and then when you have to return to the library, then the other one is on its way to you already. That's a good way to get a nice flow of Babels coming into your home. Tips and tactics for using the library. Next up is the other book, which has carried over from last haul, as in like I presented it there and I'm taking it out again. In fact, this one was on the one before that. Every time I do a library haul, this book appears and then I return it to the library. But this time will change for sad reasons, because this is The Silent Cry by Oe Kenzaburo. And he's Kenzaburo. Anyway, he died, unfortunately. It was announced last week, and that made me really sad, given that I've never read any of his books before, but I've always meant to read this book. I say always, but for many years I've meant to read this book, ever since it was recommended to me by a baker in Chanchamayo in Peru. But this book, he's a Nobel Prize winner, and he is a strong cultural establishment figure. I should say he was a strong cultural establishment figure in Japan, and the only one that I know who was like very ardently and voicedly, outspokenly left wing. And it's so rare in Japan to have like a kind of establishment cultural figure who has those kind of values, and so to lose him feels like kind of a big loss for just as a figure, as a public figure, he seems like a really cool guy. I don't know how much of his sort of personal life translates into his literature, but it seems that like his values are reflected in different ways in his books, and the Nobel Committee, I think, said that this was his masterpiece when they gave him the prize back in the 60s or something like that, or later. I don't know. This was written in the 60s. This was published in 1967, but I don't know the story. I started it today though, so I am actually going to read it this time. It's kind of sad to start reading a book because somebody died in a way, but it also like has spurred me to do something that I kept putting off. So I hope that like it kind of gives me a sort of a motivation to sort of feel like I know this writer a bit and his works and so on. And this like Ulysses is one of those huge books for me, which has just been like floating around my head for many years, and that it's like, one day I'll get to you, and the day has come. So yeah, literally today. And then also with Japanese writers, what happened was I saw this movie recently called Love Letters, and it's about this Japanese veteran from World War II who after the war is down on his luck and he's depressed, and he gets this job translating love letters from Japanese women to their American soldier boyfriends or lovers. And he hates his job. He's like, ugh, these women, they're like kind of, they're betraying the nation, you know, they're fallen women, you know, this because the Americans for him are still the enemy basically. And meanwhile, as he's doing this work which he finds degrading, he's remembering the pure ideal girl of his childhood, his sweetheart who confessed her love to him before he had to go to the war, and he's looking for her in the stations, and it's like a, you know, a proper romance film. Like he's trying to find her face in the crowd every day, and then one day he does find her because she comes to his shop and she has her own letter to her own American GI, and of course then his world is like kind of falling apart because his image of the fallen Japanese woman and the ideal Japanese woman turn out to be one and the same. It was really like subversive love stories by a female director, and it's interesting to think how it would have been viewed by Japanese audiences in the 1950s when it came out, because obviously that was like quite fresh after World War II. So it's interesting to think how, if audiences would have related to that guy or rejected him or whatever. But anyway, yeah, the movie felt really novelistic, so I wasn't surprised when I did some research to find out it was based on a novel by this guy called Niwa Fumio, and I looked it up, and it's not been translated into English as far as I can find, which was depressing, but I looked up to see if anything had been, and in my library I found 2 books. This one is, I think, his most famous novel, The Buddha Tree. No idea what it's about, but I really like this cover. You can't see it so well because of the kind of the plasticky thing they put on, but it's like these interesting photographs which are sort of like split together. And I don't know, it just looks like a super old book, and I'm really excited to find out what the heck it's about. And the other one is a short story which is in this also very old anthology of Japanese short stories. So I will read all the Niwa Fumio content I can get my hands on in lieu of love letters, which I hope somebody translates one day. But do watch the movie if that sounds interesting to you. Speaking of movies, I also took out this DVD just because the cover looked amazing. It's called In Fabric. It's this horror movie, but like a kind of a weird looking, it says it's the latest from the unique imagination of Peter Strickland. In Fabric is a delirious retail nightmare that blends Euro-infused horror with absurdist dark humor to ghostly effect. And it's about this red dress that like someone gets in a department store and ends up going from customer to customer and cursing them in different ways. And it seems like kind of a weirdo movie that I've never heard about, and like, I don't know, I needed something like that. I thought like I like having DVDs. It's the kind of thing that if it appeared on like Netflix, I would put like, yeah, watch later, but I would never watch it. But if you have the DVD out from the library, you kind of like have to watch it, and it's nice having the physical thing as well. I think that's what you miss from streaming. I think I like being able to hold the disc or whatever. It's just got a different vibe to it. And then these aren't from this haul. This is from like previous library visits, but like I might as well talk about them because we're here. Tangleweed and Brine by Deirdre Sullivan. This is just fairy tale retellings, but like I don't know, they look really cool, and I thought I want some fairy tale retellings. I don't remember exactly why I was so attracted to this one. I think it's like they're like Cinderella, Rapunzel, Little Mermaid, Frog Prince, Bluebeard, lots of ones that are like really familiar, and I just dipped into it and it sounded good, so I thought that would be nice. I would like to know more of those. This I saw like kind of on one of the recommended shelves, A Very Nervous Person's Guide to Horror Movies. The title appealed to me, and the idea appealed to me that it's talking, often when people talk about anxiety or like kind of like negative mental effects and horror movies, it's always in a really like kind of, you know, moral outrage, moral panic kind of way of looking at it. So this way, it seems the guy is sort of talking about these kind of things, but in a very sort of like horror friendly way. And he's like, and also, I don't know, I feel like there's a stereotype that people who read like horror films are like kind of like immune to them or desensitized to a lot of them, and that they're not scared of them, and that they kind of, you know, just watch them chuckling to themselves in a dark corner or something like that. But I'm a scaredy cat who really likes horror films, so this just sounded like a good thing. And then Near the Bone. This one is it's a horror book, and it's like on a cabin in the woods, in a cabin in the snowy woods kind of genre trope thingy, and it's exactly the kind of trope that I wanted in the deep of winter. And then it was my bedside book, and so like I was reading it before sleeping, but I was also not really kind of having time to do that. So it was just been, it's on my bed, it's been on my bedside for ages, and it's no longer winter, it's spring, and I only got this far into it. So it's the kind of book you need to just, you know, kind of plow through, I think, and I might end up DNFing that one. So that's everything, isn't it? Also, what's it called? I'm reading a memoir by Jarvis Cocker from Pulp, which is really, really good, and that's my main project to finish now. I'm reading that one, and I've just started Silent Cry by Kenzaburo Oe. I just read the first few pages of it, and it's super good. I'm reading Babel, and I want to start doing this Tsushima Yuko like monthly read a chapter a month. Like ongoing project thing as well. Maybe I'll start it next month, I'm not sure. And then Ulysses I want to start for Bloomsday, not start on Bloomsday, but like be reading it or finishing it by Doomsday, which is the end of June. So that's got to start maybe next month as well. So yeah, it's all starting to get a bit like full of plans and stuff like that. But then it's spring, so it's kind of, you know, the birds are singing, the rabbits are hopping. It's like, it's a nice time to sort of set goals and make plans and stuff. As long as I start actually reducing this massive list. Oh, there's the book right there. I can see it. This is the memoir I'm reading, Good Pop, Bad Pop. I think there's supposed to be like a little thing in the middle here, like a slot that's like something in his head. But it's because it's a library book, they obviously decided to take out the little loose bit of paper. But I say obviously, kind of unfortunately, they could have just glued it in or something. But anyway, I have no idea what's supposed to be in the middle there. But it's really a great memoir. And I'll talk about it more when I'm talking about it, because I hope to finish it pretty soon. Memoirs are something I'm beginning a journey on now. This is the second memoir I've read in a few months, so it's exciting. My reading habits are starting to metamorphose, I think, in 2023. So those are my books. If anything sounded interesting to you, please let me know in the comments. Let's talk about it. Tell me what you're reading. Tell me what you think about what I'm reading, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye bye.